Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode here. This is kind of a series that I've been starting. I did it in July and now I'm here doing it in August, where I do a roundup of the albums that I've been really enjoying for the month. And it could be like 4 or 5, it could be 8, 9, or 10. You know, it just depends on what albums really grabbed me. And I feel like it's a better way to just give you guys a bunch of recommendations in one episode, rather than doing these individualized reviews that are like 10 to 15 minutes of just one album, where people may or may not click on it because they're not very familiar with the band. But I hope that people will click on these because it's a more digestible format, just 2 to 3 minutes on each album, and gives you a bunch of recommendations in one video that I think a lot of people will appreciate. So these are the albums that have been grabbing me that I've really enjoyed over this past month, and I wanted to bring your attention towards them. So a really cool smattering, something for everybody in this list, I think. And so here we go. I'm going to be talking about them briefly, putting the picture of the album cover just over my head in this direction, I think. And I'll put it in the description, the names of all these albums, so that you can go off and search them and find them on your platform of choice. Go order the CD or listen to it on streaming or find it on Bandcamp, whatever you prefer. So here we go. Without further ado, let's get into the list. All right, first released on August 1st, we have Finally George and the album Painter. This is crossover prog from Germany. This is from a German producer, songwriter, and musician named George Hahn. This is his third album. He's had an album in 2018 called Life is a Killer, then Icy Skies in 2021, and now Painter in 2025. This is the first album I'm familiar with. I'd never heard of this artist before, but this album was interesting to me. I heard a lot of people talking very highly about it and decided to give it a listen. And I really loved it. It's more of like a melodic, more accessible style of prog with really great production and some really pretty vocals. I'm almost reminded sometimes of early like 2000s era Steven Wilson projects. Really what came to mind was like Blackfield, if you're familiar with that project that he was involved in. Especially a track like Why, which is the third track on the album. The opener, the title track, has some wonderful keys and haunting vocals and a great epic build-up and a really warm sound to it. And I think it's bookended well with Child of the Universe, which is like the second to last track. Has some uplifting prog towards the end with some powerful drumming and big mellotron moments. But throughout the record, you get almost kind of poppier sensibilities, but with interesting, quirky, different melodic tinges. I'm sometimes reminded of Tears for Fears, perhaps, and, you know, George can kind of get into this falsetto vocal, which is really pretty. There's some Beatles-esque melodies throughout the record as well, so it's not overtly over-the-top proggy. There's not a lot of supreme complexity and virtuosic elements to the instrumental playing or anything, but it's just really well produced, well made music, very melodically satisfying, beautiful production values and sound. I just really appreciated what they were doing here. George kind of does most of the instrumentation, vocals, bass guitar, and keyboards. You've got Todd Sucherman on drums and percussion, kind of helping him out on these projects. And then you get some guest musicians as well playing different various instruments, but and some really cool choir elements. And it's just a really fun, beautiful album that I think many of my followers will enjoy because it has all those hallmarks of the type of music I enjoy. So that was a really solid release that I wanted to point your attention to. On the more overtly proggy side of the equation, we've got Wippy Bonstack with Tactile Demons. This released also on August 1st. Eclectic prog from the US. This is a solo project from songwriter-composer Ben Conagulero, who's part of many different projects, Sun Colored Chair, Wix, In Dream View. And this is a very diverse, very proggy album. It's instrumental and it follows kind of a Zappa-esque feel, maybe bits of like Gentle Giant oddness, and just goes all over the place, just very complex instrumentation. And, you know, takes a lot of careful listening to unpack all the layers of the complex arrangements that are happening here, but it's really fun to do so. The first track, the title track, comes right out of the gate with complex Zappa-esque style prog, with all kinds of jazz quirk to it and unique instrumentation, with a definite kind of heavy edge at times as well. Andy's home plate is more typical like jazz fusion, with a bit of avant-garde kind of touch to it. And I like how it has this melodic sensibility, but it's very experimental and avant-garde. Definitely has its toes in the jazz fusion world in a lot of this stuff that comes about. Rings is a bit less intense, perhaps, a bit more of kind of acoustic style instruments, but still very intricate. Some cool percussive elements, and reminds me a bit of Gentle Giant. The Walking Glass Shrimp has a jazzy swing element, and then it ends with kind of this big epic called Billiards of Pit, which brings all these elements together in this kind of wacky stew of different musical ideas. So very wild experimentation here at times, very creative, very all over the place, but as a prog lover and as a dabbler in prog fusion, jazz fusion and different elements like that, I found a lot to enjoy here, and think it's just fascinating music. So I'd recommend it if you're a bit more of an adventurous listener and like elements of jazz fusion and avant-garde and, you know, the Zappa-esque elements of humor and different like quirky parts of the music. I think there might be something here to really enjoy in this album. Next, I want to talk about A.C.T. and their latest EP called Eternal Winter. This came out on August 8th. This is eclectic prog from Sweden, a band that's been around for quite some time. They formed in 1994, but their first full-length album, Today's Report, came out in 1999. My favorite album from them, I've been a longtime fan of this band, and my favorite is Last Epic, which came out in 2003. That was right in the heyday of me discovering progressive rock as a young person, really excited about music at the time. And they have a bit of an art rock kind of style, progressive rock, a little bit of maybe metal edges, but not too overwhelmingly heavy. They get compared to the likes of Queen and Supertramp and ELO, but a bit of an edge, like maybe a Dream Theater in the mix as well. A cool blend of pop rock, pop sensibility, and fun, adventurous prog. And they do a lot of conceptual work, and, you know, they're just really fun to listen to, just melodically satisfying, a great vocalist that brings this all together. And I was going to do a separate episode about this EP. I really considered it, but just didn't have the time to really give a focus to it, because I wanted to mention how this is the fourth in a series of 4 EPs. So if you put these all together, it kind of creates like this big double album of great material that I would point your attention to. Rebirth in 2019, Heatwave in 2021, Falling in 2023, and this one now, Eternal Winter in 2025. And it goes through the different seasons. Each EP is about a different season of this kind of hypothetical year, and it's kind of a post-apocalyptic story from what I understand. So there's a lot of elements in the story that's being told about kind of this like end of life kind of element, but a lot of personal relationships and what people are dealing with personally in their own lives as well. So Rebirth, of course, is the spring EP, Heatwave is the summer one, Falling is the fall one, and then we get Eternal Winter, which is a great closeout to this series. It's about 30 minutes, so pretty good chunk of time for an EP. I really love the song Home, which I think is one of the best representations of all of their sound, like the cool melodic pop sensibility, but there's some really cool proggy moments and a great extended instrumental section. The Family, which is kind of the first song proper on the record, was a really great early single that showcases their like poppier sensibility as well. And it's just a really solid list of tracks, and so have been all of these EPs. I recommend all of them heavily. If you like this style sound like I do, it's just really fun, creative, adventurous, very melodically satisfying music that I just have fallen in love with. They're one of my favorite bands, and wanted to give them a special mention on this episode. Next, another one of my favorite artists of modern prog. This is Whimsical Creature with Wistful Thinking. This is from August 15th. And this is a collaboration between Michael Whiteman, who's a member of I Am the Manic Whale, one of my favorite groups. He's also collaborated with Ryo Okamoto on his previous solo album, Myth of the Monstrous. Much of that was written by Michael Whiteman, and you hear his background vocals and stuff on that record a lot. And I believe he's working on the upcoming Spocksbeard record as well. And he's joined with Ella Lloyd, who does a lot of cool flute work, some vocals, auto harp, glockenspiel, and percussion, to give you an idea of the kind of musical framework you might expect. So this is a debut project from this duo. And kind of a side project for Michael Whiteman here. And it's not as overtly proggy as I Am the Manic Whale tends to be. This is more of kind of acoustic, more folky, but there's plenty of progginess hidden throughout these tracks. Some really cool instrumental moments, but just really great songs, just great songwriting. I love Michael Whiteman's unique voice. He has a very interesting tone, and I think it's really cool to hear him throughout this track list. There's a track, I believe it's Away with the Fairies, that Ella is kind of singing the lead on that one, but otherwise Michael Whiteman's doing most of the lead vocals throughout this. I love the Stargazer, beautiful track. Begin Again Again as the opener is just a fantastic piece to kind of get you excited and into this material. There's a lot of catchy choruses and just beautiful 12-string acoustic guitars and rhythmic piano, soaring flutes, shimmering auto harp, rich vocal harmonies all throughout this album. It's really a fantastic release that I have been fully immersed in and enjoying. I don't believe it's on streaming as far as I can tell. I picked this up on Bandcamp, but it was well worth the purchase for the digital album. A beautiful record that I've been enjoying. It's right up in line with all of the I Am the Manic Whale releases, but just a bit more folk tinged. You don't get like the heavy mellotrons and, all of the electric instrumentation that you might expect from a full-fledged prog band, but plenty to enjoy here. Just beautiful, well-written songs, interesting concepts. I like how Michael Whiteman writes about unique things that most people aren't writing about. And so there was a fun track called Better Than This, which is basically kind of an indictment on, AI generated music and things like that. And I think it was really a fun track to listen to, kind of a fun, poppier, experimental track on the record. So just beautiful melodies and just a great instrumental palette. If you love kind of this folkier aesthetic, it's just wonderful. So definitely highly recommended from me. I really love this record. Another record that I've really fallen in love with is Racing Mount Pleasant, their self-titled record that came out August 15th. This is very much in the style of Black Country New Road, if you are familiar with that band, kind of post-punk, indie rock sort of band that had this really emotive male lead singer who almost like sang his vocals, and then he left the group and it left with this trio of female vocalists to kind of take over and lead the band from that point forward. This band kind of is more akin to the early era of BCNR, I would say, but with a more melodic singer. I really like the lead singer here and his vocals. I think it does a really great job of being emotive, but still being tuneful and melodic and fitting the songs. These band members, they were students at the University of Michigan and started a band called Kingfisher, but have slowly transitioned into this new band. This is their first record under this name, Racing Mount Pleasant. And it has just so many beautiful elements to it. Just like BCNR, it has kind of unique instrumentation. There's violin, there's, some horns present as well, and they come into the fray and bring a lot of really interesting elements to the music. But what sets this apart, I feel like it's more beauty, more intricate arrangements, more jazzy, more kind of almost Americana or country-esque undertones as well. There's some beautiful passages of just wonderful post-rock, and I just love it. I've really fallen for this record. I think just listening to the opening track should tell you all you need to know about what this band is all about, and if you're going to like what proceeds from that point forward. Your New Place is one of my favorite tracks of the year. And has all those elements I'm talking about. It's a bit more upbeat compared to a lot of the other tracks from the record, which are a bit more melancholy and kind of sit back and just wash over you. But, even though there's a lot of laid back moments and a lot of just beautiful kind of instrumentation and soundscape kind of building, there's always these moments where that punches you and just brings up the level of intensity just at the right times to give you that emotional impact. And it's just beautifully done. And I just have really fallen for this group. A bit more modern sounding. So if you like more traditional, 70s prog rock, this probably isn't going to be your favorite new thing. But I just really adore it. I think it's beautifully rendered. Just a beautiful set of songs. Every track has something really interesting and ear-grabbing. There's these little kind of interstitial interludes as well that are shorter tracks in between that kind of set the mood for the pieces, and it just creates just a great full listen. Like, it's one of those albums that's really great to listen to front to back and just let it wash over you and enjoy this kind of beautiful landscape as it just unfolds before your eyes. It's really beautiful. So heavily recommend that one. I think it's really an excellent new release that I wanted to point the attention towards. Next, I was really taken by The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. They have kind of a long band name. The new album is Dreams of Being Dust. I really liked their previous album, Illusory Walls. Once again, a more indie rock, kind of modern band. Post-rock, a little bit shoegazy, those kinds of elements. Their previous album was really expansive and beautiful and had a lot of lush arrangement and things like that. This one is a bit more harsh and a bit more angry, and there's some harsh vocals and, almost shouting moments. So if you're really averse to that kind of thing, this isn't going to be for you. You probably want to move away from this. And it's right on the fringes of what I can even accept. But I think it's just really interestingly crafted, and there's really some cool instrumental sections, just really beautifully layered, multiple vocalists, great song structures, but it is infused with this kind of raw, more punkier edge than their previous record was. And so you have to be ready for that. But, it fits the themes that they're going for, that they're kind of angry about things that are happening in the world and they're expressing it. And I think that's what music's for, is for that kind of an expression. Punk and rock music was meant to kind of be music to kind of rebel against the status quo and to kind of allow people an outlet to kind of express their feelings and emotions and have that kind of raw mentality. And I think this really fits that kind of an aesthetic. So if you're into that, if you want to get some anger out and you want to hear a different way of thinking from a different group of young people, I think this is a really interesting record. And they still infuse it with, there's balance. It's not just all angry in your face. There's a lot of that, but there's also moments where it's a bit more laid back and a bit more like, just enjoying this beautiful layering of songs that they've put together, and just a lot of cool elements. But I'm really fascinated by any band that's modern, that is more kind of the indie rock scene, but does pull elements from progressive rock as well. It makes me feel like there's health in the genre moving forward once all these bands that are more retro just retire and are finished with their careers. That we have these young new bands that are going to still experiment and put forward really thought-provoking and interesting music moving forward. And so this one really interested me. Even if aesthetically, like, the more aggressive tone isn't quite as much for me, it was still really interesting to listen to front to back. And I thought it was worth mentioning in my list here of interesting new August releases. Next is a new band for me, Jack the Joker. This is The Devil to Pay in the Backlands from August 22nd. This is progressive metal from Brazil. And to me, it was pretty standard, like progressive metal that you might expect from the likes of Dream Theater, Symphony X, maybe even splashes of Haken. But they infuse a little bit of a Brazilian twist. And it was promoted that way, but, the twists and turns are a little bit far and few between, if I'm being honest. Like, there are moments where you get this kind of cool Brazilian kind of sound to it, but I wish they did it a little bit even more than they do on this record. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard progressive metal album, but really well done, really well crafted, great production. This is on Frontiers Records, so really well done, great lineup in the band, some really cool vocals. It kind of reminded me a lot of No Spoon, if I'm being honest, in the kind of classic progressive metal sound that they have, but also this vocalist really reminds me of the vocalist of No Spoon, a very clear vocal, but he does sometimes lean into a harsher style, so be aware that that could be something you might hear on this record on various tracks, this kind of harder edge to the vocal, but it's never like outright Cookie Monster style vocals like a death metal type thing. I think it sticks pretty much in the standard progressive metal lane, but really great album with a lot of cool tracks, maybe a little bit lengthy, but a lot to enjoy, a lot of fun, interesting instrumental sections, cool twists and turns. They're definitely very proficient on their instruments, some great guitar work, especially some cool groovy bass moments as well. They just have kind of a cool vibe and a cool sensibility about them and what they do in their progressive metal style. And I like those little touchstones, adding a bit of their own heritage with those Brazilian style sections. I just wish it was a little bit more on the record to kind of separate them from the pack of just standard progressive metal, but otherwise a really stellar release and well worth checking out if you're a huge prog metal fan. And then finally, I want to mention Asymmetric Universe, a memory and what came after. This came out August 29th, just this past weekend. And this is an instrumental record. The band is signed to Inside Out Music. And it's somewhat of a combination of like progressive metal, but also with quite a heavy dose of jazz fusion. This is led by two Italian brothers, Federico and Niccolo Visi, who are multi-instrumentalists in their own right, and they're joined by a bunch of guest musicians as well. And there's some cool instrumentation quirks here. There's some sax elements. There's some cello and violin work as well. You get a guest spot from Richard Hinshaw, who does a guitar solo on the first track. Also, Jared Yee does a saxophone solo on the fourth track. So you get some really cool moments, some just fireworks playing from them on both bass and guitar, and it's just really a fun listen through. This kind of 48-minute record full of twists and turns and just virtuoso playing at the highest level that you'll hear. So I really enjoyed this record. I'm not usually one who loves fully instrumental records, but this one just really captivated me from start to finish because they take all these interesting twists and turns. It's not just your standard modern progressive metal instrumental group. They add their own jazz fusion twist that makes it unique, and it adds a lot of groove and just a lot of funk elements at times as well, and it's just really fun to listen to. A great Italian duo. Hopefully we'll be hearing a lot more from them because this is a very promising debut from them on Inside Out. So excited for their future ahead, and every Inside Out release this year has just been really remarkable. So really grateful to be able to listen to this incredible music, and it's been really fun to cover all of these fabulous releases today. So yeah, that's what I have for you today. That's what I've been listening to in August. Please let me know in the comments what albums have really struck your attention in the month of August. I'd be really interested to hear any other albums that I may have missed in my little roundup. Just so you know, this isn't what I consider all the prog albums that came out in this month. I know there's many others. These are just the ones that really grabbed my attention particularly. But I don't have time to listen to absolutely everything, so it's just what I get my ears on and what I want to recommend to you guys if you like the same kind of stuff as me. So thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you appreciate this episode, and I hope you guys will continue to follow me and watch me in the next episode. So see ya. Enjoy the music, everybody.